Have you ever wished your phone was, well, truly smart? Not just smart because it's connected to the cloud, but because it has its own powerful AI brain, living right there in your pocket. An AI that gets your world, and only your world. Well, today we're going to dive into how that's not just a wish anymore. It's actually happening. So it all kicks off with a question I bet a lot of you have had. You see these amazing AI models like GPT or Llama, and you think, hey, could I do that? Could I build one myself? Maybe just a little one for my own stuff. It's a really exciting idea, but the reality check is pretty brutal. Take a look at that number. That is 245.8 billion yen. Or, to put it another way, about 1.5 trillion US dollars. Yeah. According to Meta, that's what it costs them to build just 2 of their big AI training centers. That's the kind of cash you need to train a major model from the ground up. So for you and me, building our own, that's a hard no. Okay, so building a brand new AI from scratch is off the table. It's just way too expensive. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could take an AI that's already trained and just give it a very specific, specialized education? What if there was a clever little hack to make it an expert on your information?
Well, that hack has a name. It's called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. And honestly, the best way to get it is to think of it like an open book exam. The AI isn't forced to memorize the entire internet. Instead, you give it a specific textbook, say your private documents, and when you ask a question, it just looks up the right page before it gives you an answer. Simple, but brilliant.
And this method makes a world of difference. A standard LLM, it's working off old data and can sometimes just make things up. We call it hallucinating. But a RAD-powered model, it's using the exact info you just gave it, so it's essentially fact-checking itself in real time. The answers are up to date, they're accurate, and they're based on your reality.
To really see how this plays out, let's follow the story of a developer, Dreamwalker Park J. Chang. He decided to build a helper app for a big Android tech conference called Droid Kagi. His goal was simple: create an AI that could act as an expert on everything happening at the conference.
So, the plan seemed pretty straightforward. You follow the standard RAG playbook. First, you feed it all the conference info, schedules, speaker bios, you name it. Then, when a user asks something, the system finds the relevant bits of info, and finally, the AI model uses that info to spit out a smart answer. Easy enough, right?
And to put all these pieces together, he used a popular tool called LangChain4j. It's a framework that's supposed to make connecting all these AI components a lot easier. On paper, it was the perfect tool for the job.
But here's where he hit the first big snack. As you can see from this initial setup, almost all the real AI work was happening on a remote server. Sure, the app was splitting up the text on the phone, but the heavy lifting, turning words into numbers, storing them, and the language model itself, the AI's brain, was somewhere else entirely. And that's the whole problem, isn't it? The app technically worked, but it completely missed the point of being a private on-device AI. You needed an internet connection, and even worse, it was taking your questions and potentially private data and shipping it off your phone to some server. That's a big deal for privacy. The developer basically hit a wall. LangChain4j, for all its power, just wasn't built for this. He kept getting errors trying to run things on Android. He realized some of the key features weren't even compatible with mobile. And the absolute deal breaker? He couldn't run the main language model on the device. The dream was kind of falling apart.
So this leads to the million-dollar question. This is the real challenge. How do you actually do it? How do you cram that entire AI brain, every single piece, onto the smartphone itself so it works completely offline and keeps everything private?
And this, my friends, is where we get to the breakthrough. The developer had to go off-road, basically ditching the standard framework and piecing together his own custom solution to finally pull off a completely on-device AI. And just look at the difference this makes. With the on-device model, your data never ever leaves your phone. Total privacy. The app works anywhere, even on a plane. And because you're not pinging a server all the time, there are no API fees to worry about. It's just a fundamentally better, more user-centric approach.
So how did he do it? He built a custom toolbox. He used something called Onyx Runtime to get the AI models running locally. Then he used a super lightweight, on-device database called ObjectBox to handle the data storage. These pieces, put together, created the fully offline pipeline that the big frameworks just couldn't deliver.
You can just feel the triumph in his own words. Finally, migrate RAG pipeline to mobile device with on-device LLM offline. That's the moment of victory right there. The quest was complete. Okay, so we've proven the tech works, it's the real deal. But now for the important part. What is it actually like to use one of these new 100% on-device AIs? What are the trade-offs in the real world right now?
First off, let's just admire the final result again. Look at this. Every single component has a check mark under on-device. The text splitter, the embedding, the database, the LLM itself, the whole brain is now living in the palm of your hand.
This is a massive win, technically speaking. But the question every single one of us would ask is it fast? How does it actually feel when you're using it on a regular phone, not some supercomputer?
So here's a look at the current performance. For a really smooth conversational experience, you're aiming for about 10 tokens per second. Think of that as words being generated. On a pretty normal mid-range phone, the app hit about 4.5 tokens per second. So it works, but it's not quite that lightning-fast back-and-forth chat. Yet.
And that brings us to the honest trade-offs of where we are today. First, these AI models are big. They can take up a few gigs of your phone's storage. They can be a bit slow to boot up the first time. And your experience really depends on how powerful your phone is. This is bleeding-edge stuff, and it comes with those kinds of early days challenges.
But here's the most important takeaway. This isn't science fiction. 100% on-device AI is real, and it works right now. We are just at the very, very beginning of this revolution. The tech and the performance are only going to get better and faster from here.
And so that leaves us with this really powerful idea to think about. Imagine this technology a few years from now. What does it mean when your banking app, your health app, your personal messages? What if they all had their own private expert AI that was completely secure and worked anywhere, anytime? That's the world that's being built right now.